This video is brought to you by Stadium Live.
2020 rolls on. Okay, did Denver just pull off the amazing? Jokic is the MVP. Denver's going to win it all, or did the Clippers just choke? The Clippers just choke, right? There's the polarizing takes. It's always somewhere in between. It's always a mix of this and a mix of that. Let's start with the Clippers, man. Let's start with the Clippers. You saw the thumbnail. Doc, I think, has been exposed more so than his talent and his players, man. You saw the beginning of that, right? That was the Lakers against Doc Rivers Celtics. And Phil was very matter of fact about that, right? There's nothing worse than real slander, true slander that's real, right? Because it is what it is. And that's what I try to deliver. But that's neither here nor there, right? Let's get into what happened. First off, Doc Rivers, why did you play Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell so much? It doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense to me because, look, that's fine. They're your bench unit. They're great scorers. They're both defensive liabilities, right? But when push comes to shove down the stretch of the game, when it matters, what's the point of having those two on the floor when you've got Paul George and Kawhi? Because ultimately, the benefit of having two-way stars is that essentially in crunch time, you shouldn't have any holes in your defense because your stars are two-way players. They can defend and they can carry the offense. When you put Montrezl Harrell and Lou Williams out there in crunch time, all of a sudden they have the ball in their hands. They're running a pick and roll, and Kawhi and Paul George, your two stars, are standing in the corner. Meanwhile, on the other end, Lou and Trez continued to get put in that pick and roll action, that pistol action that they kept talking about, and getting destroyed. It made no sense. It made no sense. I peeped him do it in the Dallas series. I was like, yo, he's playing Lou way too much. And it continued in this one. And he continued to have that bewildered look. Ridiculous. Now, second off, how they send those early double teams at Jokic. They played right into the Joker's hands. Look, some of you can go back and look at the I think I called it the red pill of Nikola Jokic video a couple weeks back, where I essentially said, I don't think he can be the best player on a championship team. And I still feel that way. I still do. But look, man, I'm wrong every day of my life. That's nothing new. So he continues to kind of prove that point wrong, right? But the Clippers played right into his hands. And here's my issue with Jokic. I know my patrons are probably a little tired of me explaining this, but as he continues to prove me wrong, I got to explain myself a little bit here. He's such a liability on the defensive end. I didn't think he was dominant enough offensively to make up for it, right? And he just wasn't aggressive enough. And ultimately my problem was his when he gets the ball, his option A, what he wants to do first is pass and drop dimes off. And then option B is score, right? And I felt like his priorities needed to flip. Put the pressure on the defense, look to score, and then the passing will come. And so I thought that made him not aggressive enough, and he didn't shoot and dominate enough offensively to make up for how much of a liability he is on the defensive end. Now, back to the game last night, Doc enabled that, right? By sending that early double, you did exactly what Jokic wants. He wants to drop dimes. That's his superpower, right? And so they played right into that, and it was ridiculous, man. And to go further into the Jokic point, like, yeah, man, if he's gonna play like that, and if he's gonna have a Steph Curry-like effect on the game with his gravity, where he elevates his teammates by dropping dimes and he doesn't even have to score to impact the game in that manner, then yeah, I was wrong. However, styles make fights, and we cannot front and act as if this wasn't an ideal matchup for Jokic, right? Montrezl Harrell and Zoo, but Doc should have played Zoo more, in my opinion. I thought Zoo was doing all right. I know he got in some foul trouble, but it was better than Montrez out there. And then you let Kawhi, again, you were taking the ball out of Kawhi and PG's hands by having Lou and Trez out there. Man. Kawhi, look, all of a sudden, we're not going to hear that best player in the world talk anymore. It's funny how the knee-jerk reactions, I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it, right? But it's kind of like, damn, okay. And look, here's the weak spot with Kawhi. Kawhi is a private entity. right? He's a cyborg. He is a mercenary. He does what he does, but he doesn't cultivate chemistry. He's not a vocal leader, and he's not going to unite and elevate his teammates. He just is going to do what he's going to do. And that's why you saw this team. I mean, look, that we all know they just came together. They haven't had a lot of time for that. But Kawhi is not someone that's going to do that. Last year with Toronto, it was Lowry, it was Van Vliet, it was Gasol, it was Serge. He had all these vets that are great at cultivating chemistry to go along with the coach of the year that kind of helped cover up that weak spot in Kawhi's overall presence on a team. Playoff P, I mean, are you surprised? We knew what we were going to get from him in this moment, right? Like Paul George, P's sitting down, right? Paul George is for the streets. Like, yeah, you could convince him to come to your team, right? But why would you want to? Because when push comes to shove, just like a hoe, he ain't going to be there when you need him, right? So, Denver and the Lakers. Look, again, Jokic continues to prove me wrong. He does. But stylistically, I think we have to acknowledge that this was a great matchup for him. It was a great matchup for him because in the Western Conference Finals, he's not going to get those double teams and get to flash and flex with all those passes. When he gets the ball, he's going to be eye to eye with that pterodactyl in Anthony Davis. And I would imagine you look at the Lakers personnel, their size and athleticism on the front line, Jokic isn't going to see many double teams. He's not going to see many, man. And so he's going to have to score. He's going to have to dominate with his scoring because he's not going to have the gravity that he had in this Clippers series. And I'll tell you what, man. Because it's an interesting conversation. It was brought up. It was on a podcast. Shout out Let's Go Warriors. Go check that out. The discussion was brought up, Anthony Davis or Nikola Jokic. Now, you already know where I stand on this. Look, Anthony Davis is a two-way star, and so I feel like overall he has more value, and I think we're going to get to see this play out now. So as disappointed as I am that we're not going to get to see this battle of LA, I'm excited to see what now I think many believe are the two best big men in the league, and we get to see it play out. I'll tell you what, if he beats the Lakers and Anthony Davis, I will bow down. I don't know what y'all want me to do. You shave my head or what? I don't know what it'll be, but I will bow down to the Joker and humbly apologize for all that. He's doing well. He's doing well, but that was the matchup for him. He's going to have to, we'll see. I don't see it happening. In fact, you know what? Y'all that have been following me a while, right? I don't usually do this, right? Because the risk of being wrong here. Now, one caveat, so long as there isn't a significant injury in this series, both teams remain relatively healthy, I guarantee you the Lakers beat the Nuggets. I guarantee you. Styles make fights. That large athletic front line, it's just going to be too much for the Nuggets. But shout out to the 3-1 gods, man. And I want to give a big shout out to Mike Malone. Like Mike Malone, he doesn't get, everybody acknowledges like, yeah, Mike Malone's a good coach, but he's never really in the coach of the year discussion, right? Because I think people look at his roster and they're like, well, they go 10, 11 deep, man. He's got a good talent, you know what I mean? And Jokic, he's kind of in Jokic's spotlight. In shadow, right? But Mike Malone is a rare coach. He's a coach's coach, right? His dad was a coach. He comes from a line of coaches, but he has the rare balance of being a motivator and an X's and O's guy. Doc's just a motivator, right? And he's just going to roll out his stars and hope they figure it out. Look, I'll tell you what, should Doc get an asterisk next to that ring? Like, should we revoke Doc's ring from that Boston series years ago? Because I tongue in cheek, I'm joking here, but like, think about it. Garnett, Ray Allen, Pierce, like Doc just gave him the keys and let it happen. I think Doc has got a lot of clout around the league because one, he's a likable guy. Everybody likes Doc. I'm not taking that away from him on a personal level, but as a coach, I think a lot of people hang their hat on, well, he's a championship coach. But did you see the stat they ran on ESPN last night? He is 0-8 in closeout games to go to the conference finals since he's been in Los Angeles. Right. And you've always heard the whispers of, well, that was Garnett's team, right? Those veterans were the reason. And it's true. It's true. It's true, man. Let me know what y'all think. I think I know the debate this morning is the Clippers choke and we're all focusing on the negatives. I want to give Denver credit, their resiliency, their chemistry, their depth, right? The balance of you got Millsap in there vetting around. They don't have a lot of vets now that you think about it, right? They're all pretty young. Millsap's the lone vet. I guess you could consider Plumlee a vet, right? But Gary Harris contributing, Michael Porter Jr., and then Jokic's gravity. It was just such a flawed strategy to me. And then in the end, you saw them get tight. Kawhi, I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess I blame the strategy of having Lou and Trez out there late because it took the ball, again, out of your true star's hands. I thought it was a significant error. And call me a hater if you want. I think the Clippers choked more so than Denver won the game. That's how I feel. Let me know in the comments what you think. Was it a choke job or did the 3-1 gods just take over and it was inevitable? Because, I mean, them cheeks was tight down the stretch. You see him hit off the bat. I mean, come on, man. It was a choke job. So Denver, how can you not like them? I'm serious. Like, I'm starting to root for them. And even though I just made a guarantee that they don't win this series, I'm still going to root for a long, extended series because I just love to watch competitive basketball. But I don't like their chances stylistically against this big Lakers front line and the Clippers. Ooh-wee. This is a video for another time, but how much did they give up to get Pandemic P? George Paul, Playoff P, right? How many draft picks? Gallinari, Shea Gilgeous. And now those two, what, don't they have an option to leave next year? The Clippers, man. Did y'all see Bomber at the end of that? Ooh-wee. All right, man. I might have a full breakdown of this game on my Patreon in a few hours. So those of you rocking with me there, go check that out. We'll get into the details, the schematics, and some of the other things that I saw in this Game 7. I'm out, y'all.